Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Pikarski, and I give Dharma talks here at Venice Blue Lotus Meditation Center in Venice, Florida. And this is a synopsis of a talk I gave on mindfulness in everyday life. And I think a lot of people are looking to clarify their understanding of mindfulness. So we'll talk about it for a little bit. So, what is mindfulness? This is a word you're hearing a lot of lately. I'm sure you've heard it. It's been kind of a popular Buddhist technique that is kind of sweeping the West. There's two ingredients to mindfulness. One is awareness. It really means being in the present, attentive to what is going on. So awareness basically means that we're not lost in our thoughts. We're attentive to our sensations. We're attentive to what is actually happening in the present, in the now. So there's a big difference between being lost in thought and actually attending to your body and your surroundings. The other ingredient of mindfulness is acceptance. So one thing about mindful, and we're not only just aware of a reaction or something else, but we accept it. We don't react to anything that's happening in our experience. We can respond to it. Response is more our natural wisdom coming out, and we can see what to do in a situation. But reaction is kind of automatic. It's a conditioned response. So when we have deep acceptance, we just accept what is happening as it is. So, the thing about mindfulness is, it has these two qualities which are pretty common. A lot of people are aware of themselves and their environment, and a lot of people are accepting of themselves. So mindfulness is not an exotic thing. It's a quality we all possess and we all use. We just need to access it. We need to practice it so it becomes more and more part of our experience. So it comes out naturally in certain situations. If you are a roofer on top of a rooftop, you're going to be mindful. You're going to be mindful because if you don't, if it's a sloped roof, you may fall off. So just moving around the roof, you're going to be very attentive. That attention is you're not going to be so lost in thought. You're going to be attentive to where your foot is actually stepping and, just your body balance and all that. If you get a phone call, you probably will stop and stay very still, get yourself stable, and then answer the phone. You'll do that because you know when you're answering the phone and focused on that, it's going to be hard to pay attention to your surroundings. So you'll stay still and not move and just take the phone call. So, being mindful is just being aware of all that stuff. So the roofer is being mindful. He's being mindful so he doesn't fall off the roof. So mindfulness means being focused on what is actually happening around us rather than being lost in the thought stream. The thought stream is called a thought stream because basically our habitual thoughts just keep going and going and going and going. And we get lost in that thought stream for long periods of time. So typically, we move back and forth from being mindful of ourselves and our environment and being lost in the thought stream throughout the day. This is just what naturally occurs. We don't notice this change. We don't notice the difference. So mindfulness is different than just thinking about something. Thought can be used as a tool along with mindfulness. However, being lost in our thoughts is almost the opposite of mindfulness. So you can be mindful without any thoughts at all. You're just paying attention to what's around you. So mindfulness has a lot of characteristics of concentration. Doing something that takes our complete attention can bring us into mindfulness. For instance, art and music. Say if you're an artist, you may be fully attentive to the thing at hand. If, for instance, in painting, you're trying to paint something. If you're a painter, you're aware of the color, you're aware of the form, you're aware of the brushstrokes, you're aware of all these things at once and how they go together. So if you're a good artist, you're a mindful artist. Great art is accomplished in a state of mindfulness. But even becoming a great artist depends upon mindfulness. You have to be mindful of your own mistakes. You have to be able to be there and be attentive to them so that you can correct them and become a better artist. Sometimes you see this in sports too. When you're in sports and you're a good performer, you're typically very aware of the, your environment. If you're driving to the hoop in basketball, you're aware of the people around you and people trying to, take the ball away and all that. You can be in the zone. So sometimes sports people get in the zone. When you get in the zone, there's a quality of peace and mindfulness to it. So mindfulness is part of being in the zone, but it's also part of being better at sports too, because when you're not in the zone and you're making mistakes, if you're mindful of them, you can correct those, just like in painting or music or anything else. So we've been talking about mindfulness that's dependent upon certain activities. So we tend to get into the zone when we're really into something that we really like to do. But the problem with this is because it's dependent upon an activity, it tends to disappear once we're no longer involved in that activity. So if I really, a teenager may really like video games and his attention is fully into video games. So when he's not playing a video game, it may be hard for him to get into something else, like his homework or whatever, if this homework doesn't pull him in like the game. So what we want to do is we want to practice mindfulness and acceptance and have it available to us anytime, not really be dependent upon an activity, so that we can benefit from it no matter what we're doing. So to do this, what we have to do, instead of just letting an activity pull us in, what we can do is practice and have an intention of being more mindful. So mindfulness is associated with a concentration aspect of meditation, or calm abiding. In meditation, we develop the capacity to be still, to rest, to relax, and to be attentive. And this is a type of mindfulness. However, there is a tendency in us, and this tendency is for us to go to sleep, to get lost in our emotions, to get lost in our concerns, to get lost in self-pity, to get lost in anger, to get lost in resentment, to get lost in all kinds of different areas of our own mind. So when we get lost like this, it's like going to sleep. We get lost in our thoughts and the thought stream. So practicing mindfulness is a way to bring your meditation practice into daily life. Instead of just being aware of our breath or the sensations in the body, we become aware and attentive to whatever is happening in our environment anytime. So we can practice any mindfulness anytime. It's an extension of our meditation practice. We can practice mindfulness formally while we're in sitting meditation. We're mindful of our breath. Or walking meditation, we're mindful of our steps. Or yoga, we're mindful of the feeling and our body posture, etc. But we can take this practice outside of these formal activities. And when we can be mindful for short practices throughout the day. So when we're washing the dishes, we decide to do it mindfully rather than just being lost in thoughts. So what would be mindful about washing the dishes? We just notice the sensations, what we see, what we experience of the water and the suds in the dish. And we are very aware of this, and this becomes the center of our attention. Can also be brought into more complex activities. So like talking to someone or, doing something that's very complex. We can practice mindfulness while we're doing these things. A lot of times mindfulness becomes more important during these more complex activities because it's easier to make a mistake. And if we're mindful and we do make a mistake, we can correct it more quickly. So if we're involved in a difficult conversation with somebody and we say something that's hurtful, we can recognize that and apologize more quickly and get things back on track. If we're not mindful, we may not even realize we've done it. We'll won't be paying attention. So, one thing I think I've seen this over and over again, mindfulness sometimes is confused with memory, And so it's different than memory. If you forget something, it doesn't necessarily mean you are not mindful. Sometimes people have incredibly good memories, but they're not particularly mindful. Other people are very mindful, but they don't have particularly good memories. So there is a vast difference in terms of people's memories. And usually memory is more associated with what people find important in their life. So you may remember something you're very interested in and all about that, and other things you're not as interested in, you may not remember. So all of this is associated with mindfulness, but memory is definitely a different capacity than mindfulness. So some of the benefits of mindfulness, it certainly can reduce stress. It's kind of like meditation in that regard. Unconsciousness creates stress. So if you're unconscious, what happens is that you're reacting in a habitual manner, and these habitual reactions can be very stressful for yourself. So we bring our attention to our bodies and we reduce tension in our bodies. So for instance, if I'm walking down the street with my fists like this and somebody says, "Jim, are you angry?" And I go, "No, I'm not angry." And then you go, "Well, what's happening with your fist?" And I look down and I see my fist. As soon as I look at my fist, it's going to automatically relax as soon as I bring it attention, unless I determine that I want to keep it clenched. The reason is because I was clenching it unconsciously. As soon as I bring my consciousness to it, what happens is it comes into the realm of choice. So now I realize, I don't need to have my fist clenched, and I just relax it. So this can happen throughout your body. If you bring attention to different parts of your body, sometimes they will automatically relax. And you can even do this to deep parts of your body by just paying attention to them. So one of the benefits of mindfulness is reducing stress. It enhances performance. So when you're mindful, you're basically, by definition, giving more attention to the task at hand and less attention to your thoughts. So you're less likely to be lost in thought, and you'll have a more open attitude to whatever you're doing, because if you're not lost in thought and you're being attentive to the moment, what happens is that your preconceived notions are kind of pushed aside for a while. So you can be more open and more flexible to things. So if you're in your flexibility and more openness, this can enhance your performance. Mindfulness sets the stage for clearer observation. We can learn more about ourselves because we're more attentive. So we can also learn more about others. So if you're really attentive, it's like talking to someone and being so focused on what you're going to say, you're not really listening or paying attention to the other person. Being mindful, you will have more wisdom to use in the conversation and can respond with more wisdom. So we're more responsive to others when we're mindful, and we're more prepared to support their well-being because we have a better idea of what that might be. Because mindfulness reduces stress, contributes to happiness, and helps our performance, it is catching on in many disciplines. So for instance, CEOs are practicing mindfulness. Sometimes people will go to different workshops and they will be given mindfulness training at work. Sports figures are encouraged to be mindful. Psychotherapists are teaching mindfulness. I'm a retired psychotherapist, and before I left, it seemed like 3/4 of the workshops I was required to attend every year for continuing education, there would be a component about mindfulness. And I think that's great because it is a capacity and it's very important and it is very helpful. So even a little bit of mindfulness can enhance your life. Um, there are levels of mindfulness too, and I just want to see if you can clarify this or understand this. Is that there's a beginning level of mindfulness where somebody may even teach you this way of being mindful. Sometimes it starts by telling yourself something. Now I am washing the dishes. Now I am washing the plate. Now I am turning the plate over. Now I'm da 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 da. So this is a level of mindfulness, and sometimes it's helpful for people in the beginning. One of the limitations of this type of mindfulness is that it creates a duality. There's kind of a sense of you separate from the dish, and I am going to act upon this dish. So there is a duality there. The second level of mindfulness is mindfulness on a more general level. Here you're just open. You're just open to what's happening around you, and you don't have a strong sense of self in it. So it's more selfless. So an example of this type of mindfulness that can happen to people spontaneously is just watching a sunset. You watch a sunset and you're just aware of all the colors in space, and they're all over the sky. And this awareness is broad, and it's not like you're telling yourself, "Oh, I need to be aware of the sunset." It's just like you are aware of it, and your field of vision is wide, and your experience is wide. You may also be feeling the wind on your skin and the soft warmth of the sun as it sets. So this is the next level of mindfulness, where there isn't a sense of separation, there's a sense of wholeness. And the third level of mindfulness is mindfulness of awareness itself. So here, you're not only mindful of a situation, you're not only mindful of a thing like washing dishes or a sunset, you're also mindful of awareness. So you're really looking at this phenomena of awareness. What is awareness? It's like you just notice that awareness is this huge field in which all our experience takes place. And you start inquiring into that and just noticing it. And if you really understand what it is, after a while, you can actually practice just being mindful of awareness. So those are three different levels. One thing about practicing anything, and this includes mindfulness, is that it really is hard to do. And it's hard to do because most of the time we're asleep. We're just lost in our kind of whatever we've been thinking about, our habitual modes of thinking, our thought stream, all these things. We're just lost in them. So to break through that sleep, we need something that'll wake us up. We need an alarm clock to wake us up. One of the best alarm clocks is intention. So if you develop a strong intention to do something, then what happens is you make it important to yourself. And as you make it important to yourself, it tends to break through. So all of a sudden you're walking down the street and you're just lost in your thoughts, and all of a sudden, maybe I'll just practice mindfulness. Because you made that intention, and then all of a sudden it occurs to you, and you made the intention, and that intention is broken through, and the idea of practicing mindfulness all of a sudden is available to you. Before that, it wasn't available to you. You're just lost in thought on something else. So intention can be a really strong thing. It can really wake us up out of sleep. So I encourage you to practice mindfulness. It will enhance your life tremendously. Develop a strong intention to do this. In Buddhism, one of the Eightfold Path is right intention. Right intention. The Buddha understood that if you really want to accomplish something, you have to develop an intention and make it a strong intention. One way to make an intention strong is make it important to you. Oh yeah, I need to practice mindfulness. This will really enhance my life. It's not going to take much to do it. It doesn't take a lot of effort. All these things can be reasons to practice mindfulness, and these reasons will encourage you to do it, encourage you to make it a strong intention. So mindfulness is very popular these days. I think it's good to have a clearer idea of what mindfulness is, and also how to practice it, and to really benefit from it. And I hope that you can practice mindfulness and really find some benefits. I certainly have in my life, and hopefully you can too. Thank you.